My name is Rafael Bernardez. I come from Spain. I'm the general manager of Besmar Aquaculture, and we are a company that produces organic sea bass in the Canary Islands. We work together with Cobra, which is a big company that does a lot of many different jobs related all to energy, industrial building, and we basically have come together because we want to be neighbors. And at first we thought we were going to have a lot of problems because as neighbors do, might have a lot of problems. But especially when I start researching what they want to do, and the possibility of having them as a neighbor, I realized that we realized this. Hey, wait a minute, we could be good neighbors and we can actually benefit from being together. So that's how we developed this idea. Yes, the combination is basically we're gonna be sharing the same space, not necessarily being joined together because we're already active there for some time. We've been since 2013. I don't want to do anything that might jeopardize what we're doing. So I say, well, first let's be together physically near, and then we'll benefit from that. How? Well, we are going to probably get very good security systems that we can supervise anyone trying to rob in our farm because that's a current problem. We do get robbery in the farm. And secondly, we might also get some protection benefit from those wind turbines being next to us. We don't know about that yet, but this is what we think is going to happen, that we could be benefit also from security point of view and from a shelter, some sort of protection. I know it might not seem like a big deal, but if it does work, we'll actually get a benefit. On the other hand, Cobra will benefit from the fact that if wind turbines can be together with fish farming and sharing the same space, that could be very beneficial for them from a social point of view, because the wind turbines do not have they are not very popular for the people that are going to be seeing that thing in front of their houses every day. But if that goes along with another activity that creates jobs, then the story might change a lot, and that will have a lot of social, acceptance from that point of view. The benefits from my point of view as a fish farmer are going to be the fact that I'm going to have a base point to set cameras to really look into my farm. I could not do that from land, and I could do that. I can establish a camera in the sea because obviously the sea is constantly moving. These wind turbines give you a constant, steady point where to put a camera and to look into your farm. That will give us very, very good security. That's one benefit. The second benefit is the fact that we have a problem with the small fish. The small fish requires a small mesh nest, and when the net is so small, the flag effect on the net is huge, and because it's a very heavy exposed site, we really suffer from the little fish being, nets breaking and having a lot of problems related to that. So what we normally do is we hide the small cage net behind a bigger one and try to get a little bit of shelter from our own cages. And I thought, well, if I have a big tower there sitting with a huge base, I can put that same cage there. There's going to be a lot more shelter, and once the fish grow and I have a big net to use, I can then bring that net into my farm, and then that way I will maybe be very, very good for us. If it works, it would be wonderful because I will, I'd be so secure as far as that small fish, and then when it become big, I bring it into my farm, and that would be huge, huge, huge benefit. I'm not sure, but because obviously we haven't done it yet, but I would at least say that we could improve our results in 10 to 15% at least in our result, and that's a tremendous jump for us. So we don't know if it's going to work, but we're quite confident it can be done. It's simple, and therefore have a lot of chances of actually succeeding. We'll see. Well, as you know, as and I'm gonna get a little bit beyond the Maribe. What the Maribe? Why is the Maribe here? I'm involved in fish farming for 20 years, and the reason why I decided to get involved in fish farming 20 years ago is because I like life. I'm a biologist, and I want to do something related to life. But I wanted to be a business. I didn't want to be just a biologist. I want to be a business with an animal. And then I decided to say, hey, fish is the future. We humans are polluting the world with CO2. The CO2 comes because our demand for electricity, our demand for meat. Cows are the second source of CO2 in the world. We consume tremendous amount of meat. We need 8 kilos of corn protein or any other protein to feed a cow to produce 1 kilo of a cow. In fish, you need 1 kilo of protein to get 1 kilo of fish. Fish is 8 times more efficient than cow. Therefore, long term, we'll have to go to feed more, get the protein from fish versus cow for obvious reason, because of economics. It's 8 times more costly. What happens right now, we're not really paying for that CO2 generated by that cow, but eventually we will have to pay for that. So the future, because fish is healthier, fish is more economical, less impact on the world, and it's taking a space we are now not using, which is the sea. We're not farming the sea, we're farming the land, and we just don't have any more space. The sea is totally unused. Therefore, the future has to go through the sea and has to go through fish farming at the sea in a sustainable way. And that's why we're involved into this. And this is why I think the blue economy is not a question of if, it's a question of now, of an emergency. We know now we have a CO2 problem in the world, temperatures are rising, no one is questioning that. So we have to reduce our CO2. How we reduce CO2? Renewable energies and more efficient meat production, which is fish. Well, you got an area, and if you get them to just to share the space, that's wonderful, because there's not that. People think of the sea being a colossal place, which is 2/3 of the world is the sea, but really we can only use the space up to maybe 100 to 150 meters deep. The rest is just too deep to work on it. So right now, there's not a huge amount of space available. It's a lot, but not tremendous. So by putting both activities together, we really become very efficient, and the collaboration with using the boats, etc., etc. Now is the time. We have the technology, we have the need because of the CO2. Therefore, this is the time to do it. 20 years ago, that was not an issue. Now it's an issue. Absolutely. I mean, I have learned a lot in the last 48 hours. And definitely, for me, it's the first encounter with, always being involved in fish farming, solely in fish farming. I've never get my head away from fish farming. And when I've seen, this thing about renewable energies and combining both activities, and I thought, wow, there's a lot of potential here. And by being able to talk to a lot of people that are having other ideas and sharing those ideas, and we constantly say, hey, maybe I can help you in that, I can help you in that. And I do a lot of sales. I'm very good at understanding how the market works. And there's a lot of people here that knows about producing fish, other species, other technologies. And so, we all can collaborate and benefit from that. And, I think in more of this, it will be a very interesting thing. I will definitely be interested in participating in more involvement, for exchanging and collaborating with other people and getting to know what other people are doing in Scotland and in Japan. I was not aware of the projects in Japan, and how the world is moving in that direction, and it's like an eye-opening, and I definitely I learned a lot, and I hope also people will benefit from what I told them and show them what we're doing and what I think is going to be our part of the future. Yes, maybe directly, like I said before, we can definitely benefit from the wind turbines being close to us. And the benefit, I don't think so much for my activity as such as what I'm doing right now, but I will assume that it will have a great impact on what I'm going to be doing from now, because like I said, it's not so much changing what I'm doing right now, but thinking about doing other things besides what I'm doing right now. And that's been a really very eye-opening. And let's say, wait a minute, I've been only focusing getting my fish produced and being my fish sold, and now I'm thinking, wait a minute, I'm a little player here among big players, and I can add value to their projects, even though I'm very small. And therefore, my approach to what I'm going to be doing from now on is probably have changed dramatically. I'm still thinking that the basic is still the same as far as fish farming, and the future is very clear to me what the future is going to be in fish farming. But what I'm going to be doing to try to get that to work is going to change a lot thanks to this project. Yeah, that's been kind of the same. I mean, I've been surrounded by engineers that deal with the sea, and they have their own views of the sea and what they need to be doing in the sea. And I picture myself, they're huge knowledgeable people. I mean, with huge experience. I've met engineers that work in the army and that tell me all these wild stories about the projects they've been involved in the past, and all related to the sea. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm learning so much of what has been happening outside related to the sea, and that's been a really good experience. And even last night, I was surrounded by 4 engineers, and they were talking about engineering stuff, and I was just listening to them for like 1 hour without even saying a word. And all of a sudden they look at me and say, Rafa, you're probably getting bored. I says, not at all. It's like intensive course in engineering, but at the same time, I personally, down in my heart, I think, hey, this is a little funny, because this guy are talking about all this modeling and about all this calculation, computer using, outsourcing computer use to calculate this and that. And I'm thinking, you have never been in my farm. Once you try to build that thing, you'll find yourself a lot of surprises. And I think when that interaction is going to be really interesting, because we're probably going to be able to avoid each other's a lot of problems, and definitely learn a lot from each other, because we're so different. But we're talking about the same world, which is the sea. Yeah. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be really interesting, and definitely a learning experience. For me, it's been, and I hope for them, it's been a very good learning experience. Well, believe it or not, I would say that probably that's the most difficult thing to do. More than the engineering, actually making the system work. It's actually getting people convinced that this is the reality. Even though we don't know exactly how the reality is yet, because we are testing the different potentials of how to do things, I'm sure we're going to come out with a solution that is definitely going to work. We don't know exactly which one it is, and probably it's not going to be none of the one we're doing right now, but will help us to get to that point of, now this is what we need to do. Once you do that, getting that to the public and getting the public to accept that is probably going to be more costly than actually getting the device into the sea, because natural reaction of people is always upfront negative, because it's a humankind. We're always thinking, oh, well, what is behind this? But it's like in fish farming 20 years ago. I remember fishermen say, oh no, your fish is going to eat all our fish, and we're not going to harvest any more fish, and all this is going to be so awful for the sea. And then reality catch up, and eventually people say, oh yeah, fish farming is good even for fishermen. And the same thing is going to happen. Will take time and definitely a lot of effort and explaining and showing. But you need a pilot, and you need to have the technology ready. And a pilot case in which you have fishermen, you have the neighbors of the area, and everyone there. And when you get people, come look at it. It's working. It will take time, but definitely a lot of work. But it will happen. It's just a matter of keep working and insisting. Well, if it has not been because of the Maribe project, we would have not come on to a basic idea like this. Because obviously, we have been seeing us, they're there, we're here, and, just we tolerate each other, but we're not thinking about working together. Thanks to the Maribe project, we say, wait a minute, if we presented the fact that we can actually do work together and benefit from each other, that has a direct product of Maribe. Otherwise, we would just happen to be neighbors, but not really benefit from each other or be thinking about working together, because there's no need for working together up front. But because of Maribe, you are like, wait a minute, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's thanks to Maribe that we've been forced to go a little bit beyond the first reaction of having a wind turbine close to your farm. Well, I will respond to the second part. I suffer it. It's been really difficult because you're so busy in your day to day that getting put together all the time to be able to develop the project and to do all the work needed. It was hard. But yeah, the actual job from the Maribe was really good, and it was really understanding on the fact that you were very busy and you just don't have the time to really do much else. But they've been really helpful and understanding, and really at the end, I don't know, but probably 40, 60 hours of my time have been devoted to the Maribe project. And it's a lot, but after you seeing everything that's been done, I says, if it's being because of them being there for the economic model, for the presentation, for everything. So all I have to do is basically guide and give my opinions about what's been done. And so it's been really, really helpful. And that part has been enjoyable. I suffer because I have to work more, but it's been a really very exciting experience. Thank you very much. Thank you. It was really a nice pleasure, and it's been very, very, very nice to be here. It was really a very nice experience in absolutely all aspects of the word.